The shattered mirror hung before them, a mosaic of fractured crystal glinting under the twin suns of Cradle. Each shard reflected a fragment of light, casting a kaleidoscope of colors onto the ancient stone walls. Dr. Mara Ellison stepped forward, her eyes tracing the jagged edges with reverence and sorrow. "Look at this," she murmured, her voice barely above the whispering wind that stirred the dust around their boots. "This is us, our history, our nature. Brilliant, but broken. A mirror shattered by our own hands, scattered across time and space." Commander Elias Voss stood beside her, arms crossed, his gaze hard but thoughtful. The expedition's discoveries had peeled back layers of human history, revealing a civilization both astonishingly advanced and tragically flawed. The ruins spoke not only of innovation but also of collapse, a duality that weighed heavily on every mind present. "It's not just a metaphor," Mara continued, turning to face the gathered team. "The ancients engineered their world with such care and vision, yet their downfall came from within. Progress and destruction are intertwined threads in our story." In the dimming light, Dr. Jian Li knelt beside a pulsing artifact, its bioengineered surface alive with a faint, rhythmic glow. "I've never seen anything like this," he said, voice tinged with awe and unease. "This technology blurs the line between life and machine, creation and control. It embodies that duality to our potential for healing and harm." The campfire that evening was a crucible of emotion. The team gathered close, the flames casting flickering shadows on their faces as debates flared. Some argued for harnessing the ancient knowledge to accelerate human evolution, believing it essential for survival. Others urged caution, warning that repeating past mistakes could doom them all. Sarah, the liaison with the living descendants of the ancient civilization, listened silently before speaking. Her voice was soft but resolute. "We carry the legacy of those who came before. Their mistakes are our warnings. To move forward, we must remember not only their triumphs but also their failures. Balance is the path, not domination or erasure." As night deepened, Mara found herself wandering the edge of the silent city. The wind whispered through broken spires and hollowed streets, carrying echoes of a forgotten era. Stars glittered overhead, indifferent observers of the fragile hope kindling among the ruins. In that solitude, she reflected on the shattered mirror once more. Humanity's reflection was fractured. Yes, but within each shard lay a chance to piece together a new image, one shaped by wisdom and humility rather than hubris. The chapter closed with Mara's whispered vow carried on the wind: "We will not be the architects of our own oblivion. The mirror may be shattered, but it is not beyond repair." As dawn approached, the expedition faced a critical choice, whether to embrace the lessons of the past or to risk repeating its darkest chapters. The echoes of Cradle whispered their challenge, urging humanity toward a future forged from reflection and resolve. The hum of the laboratory was punctuated only by the soft clicks and whirs of the holographic projectors casting delicate blue and green strands of data into the air. Dr. Myra Solis stood at the center, her fingers gliding through the shimmering genetic maps as if weaving together the very fabric of human history. The lines of DNA, once thought disparate and disconnected, now revealed a pattern, an unbroken thread linking the inhabitants of Cradle to the people who had long called Earth home. "It's more than mere coincidence," Mira said, her voice low but steady. "These genetic markers, they persist through millennia, hidden in plain sight." The team gathered round, faces illuminated by the gentle glow of the projections, eyes wide with a mixture of disbelief and awe. Tala Nkosi, paced slowly beside a large display mounted with images from the dig site's intricate carvings, symbols etched into stone, and fragments of pottery that bore striking resemblance to Earth's earliest known art. Her voice rose with passion as she connected the dots. These cultural motifs aren't simply echoes or borrowings, they're living memories. The same philosophies, the same rituals, preserved in the language of symbols. It suggests a cultural continuity that defies our previous assumptions. Her hands trembled slightly as she pointed to a crescent shape repeated in multiple artifacts, a symbol she believed represented unity and rebirth. Captain Elias Vaughn watched silently, his usually stoic expression softened by the weight of revelation. As twilight deepened outside the lab's reinforced windows, he called the team together near the ruins, their silhouettes cast against the glowing remnants of a civilization once thought lost. "We stand at a crossroads," he began, his voice steady and commanding. "The knowledge we've uncovered demands responsibility. We are the custodians of a legacy that stretches beyond our own history. How we choose to carry this forward will shape humanity's future as much as its past." His words rippled through the group, a solemn promise amidst the fading light. In a quiet corner, Oran 7 projected a complex simulation animated scenes of ancient societies blossoming, evolving, and seamlessly merging into the present day. The holographic figures danced and intertwined, their stories woven together by the invisible threads of genetics and culture. The crew watched in rapt silence, the AI's calm voice narrating the unfolding saga. This visualization represents continuity, not rupture. The people of Cradle are not a forgotten chapter, but the foundation upon which humanity's story is built. The room buzzed with an electric mix of enlightenment and awe. The realization that humanity's origins were not a mystery to be solved, but a continuum to be honored, reshaped the expedition's entire mission. It was no longer merely about discovery, it was about stewardship, about protecting the fragile legacy of both past and future. That night, as the stars blinked cold and distant above Cradle's alien sky, the team gathered around a small fire pit near the base camp. Conversations sparked with renewed purpose, blending scientific inquiry with philosophical reflection. They debated the ethical implications of their findings, the potential impact on Earth's societies, and the silent promise that this knowledge came with a promise to guard against repeating the mistakes of the past. Mira sat beside Tala, their faces warmed by the firelight and the shared sense of hope. "We're part of something bigger," Mira said softly. "Not just explorers, but bridges between what was, what is, and what could be." Tala nodded, eyes reflecting the flames. "It's a thread that connects us all, and now it's up to us to make sure it doesn't fray." As the embers glowed and the night deepened, the expedition's resolve crystallized. The ancient ruins whispered their secrets not to be erased, but to endure, echoing through the ages to those who dared to listen. The threads of continuity had been found, weaving humanity's story into a tapestry far richer and more profound than anyone had imagined. But as the team drifted to rest, a subtle vibration hummed beneath the ground, a reminder that Cradle itself was alive, watching, waiting. The journey was far from over, and the next chapter was already beginning to write itself in the silent spaces between stars. With hearts full of wonder and minds alight with questions, the expedition faced the dawn of a new understanding. The line between ancient and modern blurred, revealing a shared destiny and the infinite possibilities of what it meant to be human. The threads of continuity had been uncovered, but would humanity be ready to follow them where they led? The answer lay not in the past, but in the courage to embrace the future. And so, beneath the twin moons of Cradle, The story continued, an unbroken thread stretching into the unknown, waiting for those bold enough to walk it. The last light, the horizon of Cradle, blushed with the dying rays of the sun, a warm, golden-orange sweep that stretched wide across the sky, setting the ancient crystalline beacon ablaze with prismatic colors. The expedition's members gathered silently in the shadow of the towering structure, its facets catching the light and fracturing it into a kaleidoscope of hues that danced across their faces. Faces etched with exhaustion, awe, and a profound sense of purpose. Dr. Mara Ellison stood at the forefront, her gaze steady on the beacon's shimmering surface. The air was thick with anticipation, the usual hum of the planet's biosignature subdued, as if the very world itself was holding its breath. Around her, the team formed a loose semicircle. Captain Leo Varga, his posture authoritative, yet softened with a rare vulnerability. Eli Navarro, nervously adjusting his glasses as he scanned the ancient scripts one last time. And Tali, the liaison from the Descendants, whose presence bridged the chasm of time and culture that had separated the expedition from the planet's true history. Tali's voice broke the silence. She stepped forward, her feet bare against the cool stone, and began to speak in the long-forgotten tongue of the civilization that had birthed humanity. The words were melodic, weaving a tapestry of invocation and remembrance, resonating with a power that seemed to ripple through the crowd and even the very air around them. The meaning of the invocation was echoed in the translations Eli had painstakingly prepared, a call to honor the ancestors, to remember the sacrifices made, and to pledge stewardship over the legacy they had left behind. Mara watched as the crystalline beacon began to pulse faintly, responding to Tali's invocation. It was time. From a specially designed containment case, Mara withdrew the bioengineered flamer creation born of ancient bioengineering techniques combined with modern science, designed to burn with a light that could awaken the dormant systems embedded deep within the planet's architecture. The flame was held within a delicate, iridescent vessel, its surface shimmering like liquid glass. With deliberate care, Mara approached the beacon's core. The crowd leaned in, breaths collectively held in the quiet twilight. As she placed the vessel within the crystal's heart, the beacon flared to life, emitting a soft, radiant glow that bathed the assembly in gentle light. The crystal's facets shimmered brighter, casting dancing patterns across the surrounding ruins, illuminating ancient glyphs and murals previously lost to shadow. A low, harmonic vibration emanated from the beacon, a subtle resonance that seemed to pulse in time with the beating hearts of those gathered. It was as if the cradle itself was awakening, responding to the pledge made this evening. Captain Varga stepped forward then, his voice steady and clear, cutting through the reverent quiet. Tonight, we honor those who came before us, not just as explorers or scientists, but as heirs to a legacy that demands our respect and responsibility. The knowledge we have uncovered is a gift and a burden. It is up to us to carry it wisely, to protect it from those who would exploit it for power, and to share it with humanity in a way that uplifts rather than divides. His words hung in the air, a solemn promise that transcended the individual, a collective commitment to stewardship, to unity, and to hope. Mara felt a swell of emotion rise within her, a mixture of relief, pride, and the quiet fear of the unknown paths that lay ahead. They had reached a pivotal moment, the turning point where discovery became responsibility. As the ceremony drew to a close, the team lingered beneath the canopy of stars emerging overhead, the beacon's light still pulsing softly, a sentinel in the gathering darkness. Conversations sparked anew, bonds strengthened by shared purpose, and a renewed sense of mission took root. The last light was more than a ceremony. It was a beacon of hope, a symbol of rebirth for a species rediscovering its origins and the promise of what could yet be. Yet even as the light spread across the ancient stones and the faces of the gathered unseen systems within the planet stirred, deep beneath the surface, mechanisms long dormant hummed back to life, sending ripples through Cradle's vast living memory. The awakening was only beginning, and the journey far from over. In the quiet aftermath, Mara's thoughts drifted to the future. How would they navigate the delicate balance between revelation and preservation? What new challenges awaited as the legacy of Cradle unfolded? The answers lay in the darkness ahead, illuminated now by the last light of this day and the first light of a new dawn. The cavernous chamber inside the Cradle's central archive glowed softly with an otherworldly bioluminescence, casting long, dancing shadows on the ancient stone walls. The air hummed faintly, a persistent resonance that seemed to vibrate in harmony with the heartbeat of the planet itself. Here, beneath the surface of a world that had long guarded humanity's most profound secrets, representatives of two intertwined legacies gathered, their presence a testament to the fragile hope that had blossomed from decades of discovery, conflict, and revelation. Dr. Myra Chen adjusted the collar of her jacket, the weight of the moment pressing down with palpable gravity. She stood near the ancient stone table, its surface etched with glyphs that shimmered faintly under the ambient light. These inscriptions were remnants of a civilization that had once flourished here on advanced society that had transcended the limits of biology and technology, only to vanish in a cataclysm that had erased them from collective memory. Now, humanity stood at a crossroads, tasked with honoring that forgotten past while forging a future that could avoid the mistakes of its progenitors. Across from her, Nalia, the lithe and enigmatic representative of the descendants, moved with a grace that seemed almost alien. Her iridescent skin caught the light, shifting in subtle hues of blues and greens, while her ceremonial robes, woven from threads that glowed softly in the dimness, marked her as a custodian of ancient wisdom. Nalia's eyes, deep pools of quiet strength, met Myra's with an intensity that conveyed more than words ever could, a shared understanding of responsibility and trust. Commander Elias Ford stood nearby, his broad frame a steady presence amidst the tension. His gaze swept the assembly, noting the cautious optimism that tempered every gesture, every word exchanged. The security protocols had been tightened for this occasion. The fragile peace between factions within the expedition and the descendants depended on this moment's success. Any misstep could unravel years of painstaking diplomacy. Professor Arun Patel, the expedition's ethics specialist, whispered quietly to Mira, "This covenant could redefine humanity's relationship with its origins and with the unknown future. We must be meticulous." Mira nodded, her fingers hovering over the holographic interface embedded in the stone table. As the representatives gathered their devices, the ancient technology synchronized flawlessly with the modern systems, projecting a translucent document in midair. The text, a blend of Cradle's lost language and contemporary human script, detailed the terms of the covenant: preservation of the planet's cultural heritage, restrictions on exploitation of natural resources, protocols for joint research and stewardship, and commitments to transparency and mutual respect. The Watcher entity manifested nearby, a towering figure of shifting colors and light, its presence both awe-inspiring and humbling. It had guarded the planet's secrets for millennia, an ancient sentinel whose judgment would weigh heavily on the proceedings. The room fell silent as the entity's luminous form pulsed gently, as if acknowledging the gravity of the alliance unfolding. Mira stepped forward, her voice steady despite the pounding of her heart. We come not as conquerors or exploiters, but as humble seekers of knowledge and partners in preservation. This covenant is our promise to Cradle, to its people past and present, and to the future generations who will walk this path alongside us. Nalia responded, her voice melodic and resolute. The descendants of this land have waited for this day. Together, we will protect the legacy entrusted to us, ensuring that the mistakes of the past do not define the destiny of those yet to come. With deliberate care, they reached across the table and clasped hands, a gesture that transcended culture and species, symbolizing unity and shared purpose. Around them, the holographic covenant shimmered, awaiting their signatures. As the digital pens traced their marks, an electric hum filled the chamber. The ancient systems integrated the living will of the participants, sealing the agreement with a pulse of energy that rippled through the stone and into the planet itself. Outside, Cradle's vibrant biomes responded in kind. The leaves of towering trees glowed faintly. Bioluminescent flowers opened their petals, and the night sky blazed with unfamiliar constellations, as if the cosmos itself celebrated the birth of this new covenant. The assembly broke into quiet conversations, anticipation mingling with relief. Commander Ford approached Myra, his voice low but confident. This is only the beginning. We've a long road ahead, but for the first time, we walk it in partnership. Myra allowed herself a brief smile. Yes, partnership with respect and care. That is the true legacy of the Cradle. Yet, even as hope blossomed within the chamber, shadows lingered at the edges of the human heart. Questions of how to balance progress with preservation, curiosity with caution, echoed silently. The covenant was a beacon, but the path it lit was fraught with uncertainty. Outside, the planet breathed a living archive of memory, waiting patiently for humanity to prove itself worthy. And with that, the new chapter of human evolution began. The Grand Hall, transformed into a neutral ground for this historic moment, was a breathtaking blend of ancient architecture and modern technology. The vaulted ceiling, carved from a single monolithic crystal that shimmered with the planet's own light, seemed to stretch beyond the visible realm. Holographic displays floated mid-air, projecting data streams that danced alongside the inscriptions on the stone table. Delegates from both the human expedition and the descendants stood in a loose circle, their faces illuminated by the soft glow. The air was thick with anticipation, the weight of millennia pressing down in every silent breath. Myra's gaze swept over the group, noting the expressions of tentative hope, restrained excitement, and the ever-present undercurrent of anxiety. This was more than a treaty, it was a pact that would determine the fate of Cradle and perhaps of humanity itself. Nalia stepped forward, her voice carrying a melodic cadence that seemed to harmonize with the subtle vibrations in the air. We have waited long for this day. The stories of our ancestors speak of a time when the planet was whole, when knowledge was shared freely, and respect for life was sacred. Let this covenant be a bridge between our peoples, a commitment to honor that heritage. Professor Patel raised his hand, emphasizing the solemnity of the moment. We must also acknowledge the challenges ahead. The temptation to exploit, to dominate, to rewrite history for personal gain remains a danger. This covenant is not a shield against human frailty, but a guide to temper it. The Watcher entity's form shimmered, its presence a silent reminder of the planet's vigilance. It had observed countless civilizations rise and fall, its judgment impartial but exacting. Myra took a breath and addressed the assembly. Together, we pledge to safeguard Cradle's legacy, to pursue knowledge with humility, and to act as stewards rather than conquerors. This is our shared responsibility. One by one, signatures appeared on the holographic document, digital imprints of flesh, energy, and will. The chamber resonated with the finality of their commitment. As the last signature was placed, a wave of warmth pulsed through the room, a subtle yet profound acknowledgement from the planet itself. Outside, the living world of Cradle responded. The forest's luminescence intensified, and distant creatures sang ancient songs in the night. Myra looked to Nalia, their eyes locking in mutual respect. This is the dawn of a new era. May we be worthy of it. Nalia nodded, her voice soft but unwavering. The Cradle remembers, and now so do we. The assembly slowly dispersed, leaving the chamber bathed in the quiet glow of a promise made. Beyond the walls, the vast expanse of the planet awaited, its future intertwined with the fragile thread of this newly forged covenant. The path ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in eons, it was shared. As night deepened, Myra lingered near the entrance, looking out onto the alien horizon. The stars above were unfamiliar constellations, their patterns a silent testimony to the vastness and mystery of the universe. The soft rustle of bioluminescent leaves whispered in the gentle breeze, the planet itself alive with anticipation. Commander Ford approached quietly. "You seem lost in thought." Mira smiled faintly. "I'm thinking of what comes next. The Covenant is a beginning, but the real work understanding, protecting, evolving starts now." Ford nodded. "And the world will be watching. We must be ready for scrutiny, for challenges. But I believe in this team, in this mission." She looked back at the glowing archive, then up to the stars. "So do I. The Cradle has given us a chance to rewrite history, not just to learn from the past, but to shape a better future." The planets seemed to hum beneath their feet, an ancient pulse syncing with the human heartbeats that dared to dream. And somewhere, deep within the core of Cradle, the echoes of forgotten origins whispered a promise that memory, legacy, and hope would endure. The new covenant was signed, but as the final words were etched into the glowing interface and the assembly dispersed, one question lingered, heavy and unspoken. How long could humanity resist the lure of power and ambition before the cycle repeated? Outside, the night shifted, the stars stretching across the sky like silent witnesses to a fragile promise. The awakening earth, the morning light filtered softly through the translucent canopy, casting mottled shadows that danced across the damp soil. Dr. Amara Singh crouched among the fragile shoots, her gloved fingers barely brushing the tips of a cluster of luminescent plants. Slowly, as if stirred by her presence alone, the verdant tendrils unfurled, bathing her face in a gentle, otherworldly glow. Around her, the air thrummed with a subtle vibration, like the planet itself was breathing anew. This was no mere coincidence. It was the first tangible sign that Cradle was responding, that the bond between human care and alien life was awakening. Commander Elias Rourke approached silently, his boots pressing into the soft earth with practiced caution. He stood over Amara's shoulder, eyes scanning the iridescent flora that stretched towards the sky. "It's like the planets thanking us," he murmured, voice thick with a mix of disbelief and hope. Amara glanced up, eyes shining. "Not just thanking us, Elias. It's communicating. We've spent too long thinking of Cradle as a passive landscape. It's alive in ways we're only beginning to comprehend." The team's efforts over the past weeks had been painstaking, blending advanced bioengineering with the planet's own ancient systems. They had introduced carefully calibrated nutrients, designed to awaken dormant seed banks and stimulate growth without disrupting existing ecosystems. The results exceeded expectations. Plants once thought extinct were sprouting, and microbial colonies were thriving in previously barren soil. As the sun climbed higher, Commander Rourke led the group to a ridge overlooking the valley where their base camp nestled among the awakening greenery. The horizon shimmered with iridescent hue, subtle shifts in atmospheric composition that suggested the planet's energy was realigning. The phenomenon was invisible to the naked eye on Earth, but unmistakable here, captured by their environmental sensors. That glow, Rourke said, eyes fixed on the horizon. It's like the planet itself is breathing life back into its veins. Sora Venn, the cultural liaison and historian, joined them, her digital tablet projecting holographic images of ancient texts. The Watchers mentioned this in their earlier appearances, she said, voice steady but tinged with awe. They spoke of a time when Cradle would awaken fully, responding to the stewardship of its children. As if summoned by her words, the shimmering forms of the Watchers flickered into view, ephemeral and radiant. They hovered silently, their presence a comforting but profound reminder of the legacy the expedition had inherited. Sora's fingers danced across her tablet, deciphering the last fragments of a passage that spoke of harmony between life and memory, progress and preservation. They are pleased, Sora whispered, her eyes reflecting the flickering light, but also cautious. The day unfolded with the team planting new groves, each sapling a symbol of hope and renewal. The base camp itself transformed, adorned with bioluminescent flora that pulsed gently in the twilight, casting the site in a serene glow. Around a hastily built fire pit, the team shared stories of Earth, of Cradle, and of the countless generations that had come before. This is more than a mission, Amara said, her voice steady yet filled with emotion. It's a covenant, to protect, to nurture, and to learn. This planet is not just our home. It's a living testament to what we can become. The night deepened, and the stars above seemed to twinkle with renewed vigor, as if the cosmos itself acknowledged the fragile yet powerful rebirth taking place below. But amid the hope, a question lingered unspoken. Could humanity truly harmonize with Cradle's living ecosystem without repeating the mistakes that had marred their past? The legacy of forgotten origins, post-human evolution, and ancient ruin loomed large, a silent echo warning them to tread carefully. Yet, in this moment, with the planet awakening beneath their hands and the Watcher's silent blessing, the expedition felt a burgeoning resolve. The future was uncertain, but it was theirs to shape. As the camp settled into quiet reflection, the soft hum of resurgence rippled through the soil and air, a pulse that promised a new era, one born from the confluence of memory, stewardship, and hope. The awakening Earth had begun, and with it, the promise of a tomorrow that could finally honor the echoes of the Cradle.